James Murray. We're in the NetNewsLedger studio. On the phone from Queen's Park is Progressive Conservative leader Patrick Brown. Patrick, thank you for taking the time today.
James, it's a pleasure to join you again.
We're trying something new here in the studio, so if this all works, we'll see how it looks on video on YouTube. The Progressive Conservative leadership was a little bit of a shock to a lot of people in the party establishment. How has it been the last couple of days and weeks since you took the leadership?
Well, there's a lot of work to do, but I'm really pleased at how the party has come together. There was a significant mandate that flowed out of the leadership campaign, particularly from Northern Ontario, where the Northern ridings voted my candidacy in overwhelming numbers. And I said it can't be the same old PC party. I wanted to build a PC party that reflected Ontario today, the vibrancy of our multicultural communities, the dynamic nature of Northern Ontario, and creating a party that was really transparent, democratic, and going forward, it is going to be stakeholders, members, grassroots volunteers that are the energy, not just behind our platforms, but behind our campaigns.
So that's a different switch from what it seemed to be before, especially for a lot of Northern Ontario residents.
Well, I think a lot of people were surprised that during the campaign I went to Northern Ontario 10 times. And, since becoming elected leader 3 weeks ago, I've already been to Northern Ontario twice. And I really believe that there is a conservative audience in Northern Ontario. And I don't intend to win a seat in Northern Ontario. I want to win a bunch of seats in Northern Ontario. I remember when the Conservatives were in power under Bill Davis, Northern Ontario was Conservative blue. And I always found it incredible that we know that the Liberals were not in the best interest of Northern Ontario, and obviously their policies on mining and forestry have been to the detriment of Northern Ontario. But the NDP have gone along with all that. They have not said a peep about the policies that have seen Ontario's mining sector go from #1 in the world to 23rd. They haven't said a peep when we've seen our forestry jobs lost. And so it is time for a Northern voice, not NDP members and Liberal members in Northern Ontario that seem to be espousing downtown Toronto policies. Now,
one of the policies the Liberal government has come up with recently, and the Progressive Conservative Party is opposing, of course, is the sell-off of Hydro One. What's your view on that?
Well, I just think it's a bad deal, and that's why I came out against the Hydro One privatization. It's one thing, in general, I think market conditions are helpful. Some form of privatization isn't bad, but the notion we'd sell off a majority stake, power is not something you have a choice over. This is a natural monopoly, and to lose oversight, to lose the ability to give direction on rate increases, to lose control of, frankly, an iconic institution. In 1906, when Sir Adam Beck founded this public utility, the first demonstration they had in Kitchener was to light a sign on the main street that said, "For the people." Well, it's not going to be for the people anymore. It's going to be for the Liberal Party, for the insiders that are going to benefit from this fire sale. And I'd say people in Northern Ontario should be particularly concerned about this, because when you had a government-owned Crown asset, if there was something that may not have been in the best interest of the utility but was in the best interest of the province, you could still make that choice. Because sometimes there's business decisions that may not add up immediately but are in the longer-term best interest of the province. So I'll give you an example of where this would be relevant in Northern Ontario. Say there is a northern community that has a small population base. It would be difficult to build a business case of why it is profitable to build those transmission lines. But in the long-term interest of the province of Ontario, that is the right choice. To develop Northern Ontario, to see the economic development take place in Northern Ontario is in the best interest. Look at the Ring of Fire. I worry that, there's going to be mining developments, there's going to be economic developments in Northern Ontario that we're not going to have the ability to say these transmission lines are necessary. And so this is not only a bad deal for Ontario, this is a bad deal in particular for Northern Ontario.
Well, especially when you talk about smaller communities. I was recently up in Bearskin Lake. I've been in Cat Lake and Round Lake. One of the prominent things there, of course, is the diesel-powered generator that runs everything. So power into your home is extremely expensive. And as mining development starts to happen, there's no power lines into the north that need to be there, and the power pricing is high already.
And power is inextricably linked to the success of the mining sector. You know, when I had sat down with Chris Hodgson, the head of the Ontario Mining Association, I said, what was your biggest concern you're getting from your membership? He told me it's energy. And you know, when I was up in the Ring of Fire, you know, I was up there with my good friend MPP Vic Fideli, talking to Noront and stakeholders in the Ring of Fire. You know, they were talking about energy. And so, you know, the fact that we're losing control, the fact that we're losing, and we're doing a fire sale, that we're relinquishing it, is going to be a moment in our history, because once you sell it, you can't get it back. This is going to be a moment we look back upon and say, what was this government thinking? And I realize they need a quick sale right now because they're short on revenue, and they made promises during the campaign that they can't afford. I just wish they were honest with Ontario last spring. We know when they made promises they knew they couldn't afford. I wish they said at the time they were going to engage in a fire sale of Ontario Crown assets, because I just find it disingenuous of them to come out of thin air, out of nowhere, to substantiate their spending problem.
And it's going to be an issue that, you know, the government is probably going to win because they have a majority.
And unfortunately, it's going to be a sad day for Ontario. And you know what is the most disheartening about this? Frankly, if you look at the revenue the government's going to get, because half is going to debt and half is going to new spending. The half is going to new spending. This $4 billion is going to new spending. When you think about it, gas plant, $1 billion. Smart meters, $2 billion. The missed billings, 88 million. You know, we got $3.1 billion of incompetence, of mismanagement, just on the Liberal government's watch. If they hadn't engaged in those scandals, if they hadn't engaged in that incompetence, we wouldn't have needed to do this.
So it's a bit of a mixed blessing for Ontario. We're paying for it twice.
We are paying for their incompetence, and we are jeopardizing the long-term future of Ontario for it.
Well, Patrick, I want to thank you for taking the time to inform our viewers and readers, and I'm sure we'll be talking many times into the future.
My pleasure, James.
Thank you.
Thank you.